Welcome back to Investing Talk Podcast. Today, we're taking a look at a really critical player in the semiconductor equipment world. That's Lam Research. And the big question we're tackling, the one you're probably asking as well, is now a good time to actually buy Lam Research? Before we jump into all the details, if you find these analyses helpful, please do hit subscribe, like the video, maybe leave a comment below. Oh, and yeah, if there's a specific company you want us to dig into next time, definitely let us know in the comments. So what we've done today is pull together the latest info. We've got their Q1 fiscal 26 filings, the technical charts, analyst reports, basically trying to give you that complete picture. We want to look at the momentum, which seems strong, but also, be really clear about the risks involved.
Right. And starting with the fundamentals, the real engine room stuff, Lam Research is showing some serious operational strength lately. That most recent quarter, their Q1 for fiscal 26, it was a pretty significant beat. They pulled in $5.32 billion in revenue.
Okay.
Which was comfortably ahead of what analysts were looking for, around $5.24 billion.
Right. And it wasn't just a small beat either.
Yeah.
That context matters.
Exactly. And what really makes that number pop is the year-over-year growth. We're talking a 33.6% increase in revenue compared to last year.
Wow. 33.6%.
Yeah, that's a substantial jump. It really signals that the demand for their gear is picking up speed, probably beyond just a simple market recovery. Sets a really bullish tone for their fiscal year, I think.
And with that kind of top-line growth, you'd hope to see efficiency improve, too.
Yeah.
And it looks like the numbers back that up. The net profit margin climbed pretty sharply, didn't it? Up to 29.7%. That's up from 26% last year. I mean, keeping nearly a 30% net margin in that kind of heavy equipment business, that speaks volumes about their cost control and, pricing power.
It really does.
And even more telling, maybe, is the EPS. Earnings per share surged 43.3% year over year.
But that EPS surge is, it's a fantastic data point, especially when you put it against their, let's say, recent history. Their 5-year average EPS growth was, only around 6.2%? So seeing 43.3% now, that's not just growth, it's like a dramatic acceleration. Suggests maybe a whole new growth phase is kicking in, driven by this tech cycle.
Yeah, and management seems to feel that way too. They actually raised their earnings guidance after that strong quarter, confirms they see the momentum carrying forward.
Well, and if you connect that to the wider industry picture, things look pretty robust there too. Management's forecasting global wafer fab equipment spending, WFE, to be slightly over $105 billion in 2025.
Okay.
But what's maybe more interesting is they see even higher spending in the first half of 2026. So it doesn't look like just a short-term bump.
And the analysts, Wall Street seems to be on board with that longer-term view too, right?
Generally, yes.
The projections I saw were for medium-term revenue growth around 9% a year and earnings growth about 8.5% per year.
Yeah, that implies pretty consistent, high single-digit growth sticking around for the next few years.
Okay, so growth looks strong, margins improving. What about the foundation, the balance sheet?
Very solid. Lam Research keeps a strong balance sheet. They've got significant cash, short-term investments.
Yeah.
And importantly, the debt seems quite manageable.
Okay.
Their debt-to-equity ratio is pretty conservative, gives them flexibility, and they're generating a lot of free cash flow, which, easily covers things like dividends and buybacks.
Right. And you mentioned dividends. The payout ratio is quite low, isn't it?
Yeah.
Only 25% or so?
Yeah, super safe. Lots of room for that to grow if they wanted.
And they're buying back shares too. But the number that always jumps out with Lam, for me at least, is that return on equity. The ROE.
Oh, absolutely.
It's astonishing, right? 58.17%.
It's a total standout number. And you ask, how do they sustain that? An ROE that high? It basically means for every dollar of equity capital, they're getting back almost 58 cents in profit.
Which is huge.
It's huge. And they do it because their business isn't just, selling machines. It's about leveraging that specific IP, the proprietary etch, the deposition processes that lets them generate these kind of outsized returns on the assets they have. They're just incredibly efficient with capital.
Okay, so balance sheet's rock solid, generating cash, highly efficient. But what stops competitors? What's the competitive mode here? Let's shift from financials a bit.
Good question. Lam has carved out a really dominant niche. They aren't just a general supplier. They're the key provider for certain steps, advanced deposition and etch. And these aren't simple tasks. This is like the microscopic surgery needed for making these next-gen chips.
A microscopic surgery.
Yeah.
Can you unpack that a bit? Why are deposition and etch so vital right now, especially with, everything happening with AI?
Sure. Think about what goes into high-performance computing. AI chips, advanced logic, and especially things like high-bandwidth memory, HBM. To stack those memory layers or etch the incredibly tiny, complex circuits for, say, 2-nanometer chips, you need unbelievable precision. Deposition puts material down almost atom by atom. Etch removes it just as precisely. Lam systems are world-class at this.
So they're essential tools.
Pretty much non-negotiable if you want to make the chips powering AI data centers. That reinforces their tech moat and makes them really sticky with the big clients, the foundries, the memory makers.
Got it. They own the critical tools for the hardest steps. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so strong fundamentals, strong moat. Now, let's look at the charts, the technical picture. Investor confidence has to be there too. And looking back over the last 3 months, the stock's action looks pretty textbook, doesn't it? Higher lows, higher highs.
Yeah, very clear uptrend. And we saw a big move after those Q1 earnings came out. The stock jumped, kind of confirmed the strength. It actually hit that $145 level intraday right after earnings, which is a key psychological and technical spot.
So what does that mean for like the near-term trading picture where support and resistance?
Well, right now, short-term support looks pretty solid down around the $137 to $140 zone. Suggests buyers are stepping in on dips.
Okay.
Immediate resistance is probably that $145 to $150 band it's been bumping against. TradingView data seems to back that up, showing a near-term bullish range, maybe pushing towards $155 if this momentum keeps up.
And the standard indicators, moving averages, RSI.
All looking pretty positive, actually. The stock's trading comfortably above both the 50-day and the 200-day moving averages. Classic bullish signal.
Right.
And importantly, the RSI, the Relative Strength Index, it's in that healthy kind of 60 to 70 range.
So strong, but not totally overheated yet.
Exactly. It shows strength attracting buyers, but not quite in that overbought territory, which might signal a pullback risk. METD is positive too. Usually suggests institutions are steadily accumulating shares, which supports the trend.
Sounds like a pretty clean technical setup. But,
Yeah.
Things change. What would be the first warning sign for you on the charts if one indicator turned negative?
Good question. Given how strong the fundamentals look right now, I'd say the first real technical alarm bell would be if the stock broke convincingly below that 50-day moving average. And especially if it couldn't hold that $137 support level on a closing basis. That would suggest the institutional buying has paused, or maybe the bullish story is starting to get questioned.
Okay, makes sense. Let's shift to sentiment then. What are the pros saying? The analysts.
Overwhelmingly positive, actually.
Yeah, the consensus looks really strong. I saw 27 out of 35 analysts rated a buy.
Right. And those buy ratings come with some pretty ambitious price targets, too. The average or consensus seems to be in that $145 to $155 range we talked about. But the highest target on the street goes all the way up to $200. So some analysts clearly see potential for massive upside if this AI cycle really keeps firing.
And we've seen some recent high-profile calls too, right? Like Cantor Fitzgerald kept their overweight, Goldman Sachs stuck with their buy.
Yeah, Goldman has a $160 target. Those kinds of reaffirmations add to positive sentiment.
And is the big money following suit? Institutional flows.
Looks like it. Whale wisdom data indicates steady institutional inflows. The pension funds, the large asset managers, they seem to be gradually adding shares.
What about insiders? Any major selling?
There was some selling noted in Form 4 filings at the SVP level, senior vice presidents. But the source was careful to point out this often happens after a big run-up in the stock price. Executives exercising options or selling shares they earn.
Right, standard stuff sometimes.
Yeah, it didn't look like widespread dumping by the top leadership. The big funds seem to be the net buyers here.
Okay, so fundamentals, technicals, sentiment all lining up pretty bullishly. What about catalysts? What could drive the next leg up in, say, the next 3-6 months?
Well, first is just the continuation of that AI demand. Management themselves pointed to the surge in AI data center spending as a key driver. Suggests it's directly translating into more orders for them. That's the big structural tailwind.
Okay, that makes sense. Anything more specific?
Sure.
Product news or events?
Yes, definitely. Lam Research is scheduled to showcase some new etch and deposition systems at a big industry conference, the International Electron Devices Meeting, or IEDM. That's in December 2025.
Okay.
Positive news or buzz coming out of an event like IEDM, especially about tech for next-gen chips, that can definitely move the stock. Investors anticipate future orders.
And then there's the next earnings report, right?
Right.
Q2 fiscal 26.
Exactly. Expected sometime in January 2026. And analysts are already looking for continued strong year-over-year growth, basically confirming that acceleration we saw in Q1.
Right. What about any speculative stuff, rumors or chatter out there?
There's always some of that. Nothing confirmed, of course, but there's chatter about Lam potentially landing some big new orders tied to HBM and AI accelerator chips. Also some, very speculative talk about a potential strategic deal with a major Asian chip maker for their 2-nanometer manufacturing process.
High risk, high reward kind of rumors.
Exactly. Fuels sentiment sometimes, but you can't bank on it.
And we have to balance all this positive talk with the risks. You mentioned earlier, Lam operates in a cyclical industry. That hasn't gone away, has it?
No, absolutely not. That remains the number one risk. The semiconductor equipment industry has always had its booms and busts. If global chip demand suddenly cooled off, Lam would definitely feel it.
And it's a volatile stock too, right? High beta.
Yeah, very. The beta is around 1.84. It means it's much more sensitive to overall market swings. If the Nasdaq or the tech sector has a bad month, Lam Research is likely to fall, almost twice as hard as the broader market. That's something investors have to be comfortable with.
So, okay, if it's still cyclical and it's got this high beta, this volatility, why the strong conviction from the sources?
Yeah.
Why rated a 9 out of 10 bullish if those risks are still there?
That's really the crux of it, isn't it? The argument from the sources seems to be that this particular tech cycle, driven by AI and advanced computing, is so powerful and structural that it might actually outweigh or at least significantly dampen the usual cyclicality, especially for these advanced tools that Lam specializes in.
Ah, okay. The demand for their specific niche is less cyclical now.
That seems to be the thesis underpinning that strong 9-10 rating, that the need for advanced etch and deposition for AI, HBM, and leading-edge logic is just so critical right now, it might smooth out the traditional bumps.
Okay. So let's bring it all home for the listener. We've got the strong financials, the positive chart patterns, the bullish sentiment, but also these clear risks. What's the final verdict on our main question? Is now a good time to consider buying Lam Research?
Well, based on pulling together all that analysis from the sources, the overall assessment is definitely positive. A very strong endorsement, actually. It comes out as a 9 out of 10 bullish rating. That's high conviction.
And the core rationale for that 9 out of 10, just to summarize.
It really boils down to the convergence of three main things. One, that sustained momentum in revenue and earnings we talked about. Two, the incredible capital efficiency, that 29.7% net margin, the near 60% ROE, just stellar numbers.
Right.
And three, all of that fundamental strength is being confirmed by the technical picture and backed up by a clear path of near-term catalysts, the AI tailwinds, IEDM, upcoming earnings.
So it seems positioned well for different types of investors.
It really does seem that way. The analysis suggests it's attractive both for, say, near-term traders looking to play those upcoming catalysts like earnings or IEDM, and also for long-term investors looking for a high-conviction holding, someone who believes in the structural growth story for advanced semiconductor equipment. Lam holds a really dominant, almost necessary position there. And maybe one final thought to leave you with, building on what we discussed. We mentioned cyclicality, but think about this. How might the growing reliance on these super advanced deposition and etch tools, especially for things like HBM memory, actually change the game? If demand for these specific high-margin tools becomes less tied to the old PC or smartphone cycles and more tied to this ongoing AI build-out, could Lam's business become fundamentally more resilient, more stable than it was in past cycles? That potential shift from broad cycles to maybe more structural, specialized demand, that's the really interesting strategic angle to keep an eye on.
That's a great point. Is the nature of the cycle itself changing for key players like Lam? Definitely something for you to consider. Thanks for tuning in to Investing Now podcast. Catch you on the next one.